Hi there, quick intro for the video. This applies to BMW E70 X5s in particular. I have a diesel, may or may not apply to other variants with adaptive drive. Um, but basically what we're doing here is we are applying coding changes that will basically make the modules not expect to be able to talk to this vertical dynamics module illustrated right here, item 15. So that's going to basically passivate all of your shocks. It's going to, basically simplify the system. Um, and you can elect to replace your shocks with passive dampeners or leave the active ones in place, just running in a passive mode. I've driven, I can't tell much difference with the VDM or vertical dynamics management out of service. But yeah, to teach their own. You could try this as an incremental step, and if you don't like it, you can back it out pretty easily and elect to replace your, shocks for $1,000 each, as opposed to, buying a full set of coilovers or something like that for about the same price. But yeah, in terms of prerequisites for doing this work, you'll need a K plus DCAN cable to talk to the OBD connector, and you'll also need ISTA software to basically read diagnostics, and NCS Expert to apply coding changes to various modules in the car. And there may be other software variants to do this work as well, but those are the ones that I'm using, and that's the ones we'll be looking at. And again, before you watch much further, I want to let you know of these prerequisites. If this all sounds like crazy talk, this might not be the right video for you, but may still be applicable to share with your technician or otherwise if you want to basically, modify your car to go from very expensive active dampeners to more, commodity priced passive dampeners. So with that, we can jump into the rest of the video. Okay, so here's an example of what I see with the EDC error. I usually pop into reverse to back out of the driveway. I'm lucky enough to get a camera for about 2 seconds before I get this annoying warning that pops up that I have to acknowledge with the UI there, and then I can have my reverse camera back. I'll show you how to fix this. Alright, fun fact is I lost all the audio for when I was basically running all of these commands, so I'll do my best to kind of walk back over it. But yeah, we're here in ISTA software. I got my big mouse cursor just so it's super easy to see all the clicks that I'm making. But basically gonna, do a readout of all the ECUs, get my VIN number, read status of all ECUs. It's going to take a moment, as it says, so I'll skip forward a little bit here and there. But yeah, so we're through a good portion of identification, and I just want to call out the optional equipment list here. So basically, the thing that we're going to be doing today is coding out this 2VA adaptive drive. And but this equipment list basically reflects all the as-built options on my particular car. Might be different for you, but ECS or electronic dampener control, EDC rather, is basically hiding kind of under adaptive drive in this option list. So we'll let this continue. So while that is running, I did want to just share this comprehensive list, vehicle order option list that applies to all BMWs. I'll try to remember to put this link down in the description. But basically, within this massive list, again, there's I think a big pitfall is that there is an option associated with the EDC that applies to many cars. It unfortunately does not apply to the X5, and the secret sauce seems to be really the adaptive drive in this car, which couples anti-roll stabilization and EDC together. So yeah, worth calling out, I suppose, as well, is that This does appear to have impact on disabling some of the anti-roll stability stuff, so there are active roll bars in the car. So understand that that's another consequence or kind of collateral, damage associated with this change. Again, I didn't know any drivability issues. I picked up anecdotally that the de-energized state of all this active suspension stuff is on the more firm side, so shouldn't be a big deal. All right, sorry for the interruption there. Wife brought me a whiskey sour. It's like she knew that this project has been causing me to need some whiskey sours. All right, moving on. So I'm going to just skip forward. Again, we talked about option codes, but I just want to skip through. This is all basically just wait, 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 wait. All right, so at this point, like, we've read all of the basically ECUs, and on my car we can see two ECUs that have trouble codes. One of which is the DDE or main ECU, and the other is my right rear shock module. If I skip forward more, yeah, I guess like here, just hovering over a few things, but yeah, you can see damper satellite rear right. If I go to the parent of all four of the shocks, that is our VDM module, which I thought I hovered over that as well. Let's see if I can find it. All right, yeah, vertical dynamics management. Yeah, there's nothing called out as EDC in this tree, but when you see EDC on your console, it is most certainly talking about vertical dynamics management or VDM. All right, so skipping forward here, just so you understand what I was clicking. Lower right gets you into viewing the fault memory, and yeah, no surprise there. We have right rear internal fault. Yeah, worth noting, I do have an electric fan air. It's completely unrelated to the EDC. I had my car apart for some diesel injector changes, and I'm kind of like halfway through. I don't know. I've got it mostly assembled, but provisionally I'm driving around a little bit without the electric fan and some of the skid plates while I just make sure all the kinks are worked out. But I do have that air present, and we'll see it in some of the downstream checks as well. Okay, so yeah, that's where we're at status-wise right now. The next thing that we are going to do is basically go out and remove the fuse for the VDM module. All right, so first step to passivate the vertical dynamics management or VDM is to actually remove a fuse. Sometimes it's also promoted to remove the whole unit. I don't want to remove the whole unit because I don't want to lose it. I want to leave it in place in case somebody wants to buy the shock or put it back into service or whatnot. But basically, this guy right here with the two connectors, blue and green, is the vertical dynamics management unit. And basically it has one 5 amp fuse going to it. I'm going to do my best to remove it with my one hand here, but basically it's this guy right here. I think this is position 120. If you look on the card on the side. So again, it's second one up from the bottom right here is the one I just removed, 5 amp fuse. All right, so we're back in from working on the car, pulling out the fuse. That's the extent of our physical changes. This clip is just me, like, basically rereading module status after yanking the fuse. I think I'll just massively skip forward here, but yeah, like on lower left, I did a start vehicle test, basically rerun a test. It's gonna take a while to read. Yeah, take a moment. Okay, so looks like we're done now, but basically just want to show the state of the system now that we yanked the fuse, and VDM module does not have power. As a result, this ISTA can't talk to it, since it's the conduit, or uses FlexRay bus to talk to all the shocks. We can't talk to any of the shocks either. So those are all red. ECUs are not responding. But again, that's just a result of yanking out the 5 amp fuse from VDM. Other things to note are a couple other ECUs aren't happy. Combi, EGS, GWS are not happy, and that's new. DDE is still holding basically my fan air that I touched on earlier. Yeah, moving forward and displaying fault memory on the lower right gets us to this view here, where we can kind of look at all these in a little bit more detail. But yeah, no comms possible with satellites. It sort of reiterates everything I just said, so I won't belabor it. Let's see, I did click through a couple things here, but again, no huge surprises. It's an interrelated system. Some things expect to talk to VDM and can't as a result of pulling the fuse. So that's kind of where we're at now. So yeah, now let's move on to doing some initial coding changes. All right, so now we are in NCS Expert. I'm gonna do my best to talk over it. I'll not use the jog shuttle to go back and forth, but we're basically going into expert mode. Should be a familiar term to folks that use the software. You can just follow my button clicks. Going into the CAS ECU, which basically stores the vehicle order information. So you can see pulling out my unique VIN and the FA, which is basically the vehicle order, which basically contains a bunch of those like enumerated numbers delimited by $signs that relate to the website and that I showed, as well as like was it visible on ISTA before. Now we are basically pulling out kind of the vehicle order and list form, and you can see I highlighted this 2VA, which corresponds to adaptive drive. Basically, I am going to highlight that and click the delete key, and you'll see it just magically disappeared. Given that's the case, yeah, then we can say OK to that to confirm. This I didn't design the software. It's a little bit confusing, but basically, after changing that vehicle order, all we've done is change it in the memory of the software. I'm going back now, and I'm going to process the ECU, and I'm going back to the CAS. It's the thing that I read dynamically before, but now I've read from it dynamically. I've changed the value to remove dynamic drive, and I think I'm having points of confusion here because I don't remember seeing that particular screen to confirm. But basically, I'm going to do an FA write, which is to kind of overwrite the vehicle order, so it'll be exactly the same, with the exception of I'll have removed the dynamic drive option. So I'm executing that job now. My cue that it's done is when the buttons are ceased to be grayed out. I'm changing the ECU to basically a secondary ECU, like the FRM module. So like the vehicle order is stored in 2 ECUs just for redundancy. So I am going to the FRM. I chose the FRM. I'm confirming that it is an FA write job to overwrite the vehicle order, and I'm hitting execute here. So again, they just unhighlighted, indicating that that is done. So at this point, we've written a modified vehicle order to eliminate dynamic drive to both the CAS ECU, CAS, as well as the FRM ECUs. So I think at this point, we can basically exit the software, back to main, close it. Otherwise, the work inside of NCS Expert for this iterative step is done. All right, so after we've rewritten the modified vehicle order, just want to show like the influence of that incremental change inside of ISTA. So I'll skip forward here, but yeah, basically back in ISTA doing another complete identification of my car, identification of the car. It's going to yeah, read the VIN, read the option list. Maybe this is exciting here, where we had 2VA associated with adaptive drive before. That is now gone. So that's disappeared out of the option list. So that is, influenced by our work in NCS Expert, removing the 2VA option from the FA on both of the CAS and the FRM. Skipping forward to past all of this. Okay, so we're complete now. So now here's our ECU revised control unit tree. And want to note that we no longer have a VDM module hanging off of this portion of the control unit tree, and we do not have the 4 shock units hanging off of the VDM. So so far we have convinced the diagnostic software that it doesn't need to know or care about a VDM module or any children of the VDM module. We still do have faults in the same modules that we had before, the Combi, EGS, and GWS. So, but we haven't done anything yet to like revise their programming. So let's see. Yeah, so here's like basically the list of faults. We've got one from the Combi, the status damper program. I think the bottom one's GWS and the other one's EGS. Maybe I have those flipped, but it doesn't matter to any great extent. Basically, 3 faults associated with 3 ECUs that all still think that they should be able to talk to the VDM. So at this point, we can basically go to the next level of software changes inside of NCS Expert. Again, I'm trying to show the influence of each incremental change. In theory, you could run all the NCS Expert steps as one big list of steps, and probably have less intuition for the influence of each one, but still get the same outcome. All right, so we're back in NCS Expert to basically revise programming on the other ECUs that still had fault memory. So let's take a look at that. I'm gonna, again, right now the bottom bar is kind of obscuring the button, so I don't want to mess with that too much, so I'm just gonna let it play and speak over it. But yeah, loading expert mode, which kind of, yeah, lets us apply programming. Follow my button clicks to get into your E70, going to the CAS to basically, recover our now modified vehicle order that is removing the adaptive drive. I think here I'm just showing that 2VA associated with adaptive drive is in fact gone. I didn't make any changes there, just basically took a peek at it. So yeah, now that we've read that vehicle order, it tells the software everything it needs to know about what the appropriate defaults are for each of the ECUs. I'm basically coming in here and going to go through the ECUs in order, but onto the Combi ECU, discussing here that the different options, there's quite a few, but this SG coderian basically means, hey, write some, write to the ECU. Coder dot and lesson means read from the ECU. If you want to basically read a backup, read and store a backup with coder dot and lesson, you can do that and find the trace file for what was in the ECU inside of your work folder of NCS Expert. I'm just gonna go crazy and send it and basically write the appropriate defaults for our revised vehicle order with the SG coderian. So I'm executing the job that just finished. No errors, that's great. So now going to the EGS, going to do the same. And and then we'll follow that up with the GWS. And again, for each of these, we're just going to confirm that the job name's SG Codirin. We're going to execute it, check for the absence of any problems or errors. I don't think there's any, so I'll just kind of now jump ahead now that we've seen the flow on two ECUs. Okay, yeah, hopping into GWS and doing the same, executing SG Codirin. Okay, so now, yeah, we've executed the job for three different ECUs. It looks like, yeah, so it looks like I jumped straight back into ISTA right now to basically kind of do a read and see what the influence of that was. And if I recollect, my first readout, I still have all the latched fault memory from before the coding. So when this finishes, we will basically have the same results we had before, where all these ECUs still have that latched fault memory. But that's kind of to be expected. We can go ahead and let's see if you see what I'm doing here. Let me be real careful that you can see this. But after reading the faults, I just immediately on the lower left click to clear fault memory. So display fault memory, delete fault memory. All right, so fault memory is getting deleted. As soon as this is done deleting, I'll immediately go back and read the status from ECUs. So I'm going to just kind of click ahead here. Okay, so I think I applied another read request. And yeah, so look at this. So this is the completion of the read request. And now we're down to 2 faults. And they are for the electric fan, and we still do have one for I think the EGS. Let me go back here. So yeah, so the EGS is like the transmission control unit. I think it's the actual shifter that has the sport button. I think like there's no coding changes that you can apply to it that make it think that it's a good idea for the sport button to do nothing. So I'm not aware of a way to get rid of the EGS error. It is benign as far as messages on your dash or console go. It's not going to interrupt your, reversing. There's no consequences that I can see. I don't think it even show up on a normal OBD, scan. It only really shows up in this more sophisticated software. So yeah, I'd be happy to hear if anybody has a solution for that. But even though that still exists, that's a large step forward for me, given that I no longer have a shock error being, communicated on my dash every time I start the car. So yeah, again, got my fan that I'll work on unrelated to this video, and then this status damper program that I expect to see until somebody tells me a solution for that. But in the next clip, I'll be able to go ahead and demonstrate that my dash errors are in fact gone. All right, so I'm starting to back up after having applied the revised coding with NCS Expert. I'm starting it up now. Popping in reverse as I often do. Getting my backup camera uninterrupted by the EDC error. Auto back to park. Let's see, I am getting a service due warning, but nothing related to EDC. So I again have one stored code on the EGS module, but that's pretty obscure. I don't think anybody's going to notice that. It's not on the dash. And physically, all we've done at this point is remove a single fuse that can be replaced. which would cause the CAS and FRM, I think, to recode the vehicle order, if I understand correctly. Might still be work to, recode the Combi and, GWS, but not totally sure about that. But again, I think it's a pretty easy two-way door to take this out of service and then put it back into service if you find that you're flush with cash and you want to invest deeply in your E70 X5 diesel. Alright, so we've been able to, apply the coding and get the desired outcome of not having any EDC related dash lights. At this point, if you've followed along and enjoyed similar success, congratulations. Pretty much can check out at any time. For folks that are interested, I did just I do have record of like what the default coding is pre and post the dynamic control. So like what you see on screen is a trace file that I pulled from NCS Expert, and on the left hand side of the screen is the adaptive drive control removed, and on the right hand side is when it was present. So these basically key value pairs that are shown on screen are basically distributed amongst all those ECUs that we saw on the kind of tree view. And I can just quickly scroll through these so you can get an idea of like what it is that we've actually changed on the ECUs. So the first difference here is like anti-roll stabilization, ARS, has been basically made inactive on the left. So that's a consequence to be aware of. Again, I don't think it matters too much, but that is the case, and you can override any of these and try to reintroduce ARS if you're interested in that. Again, I was happy to have simpler and more passive for all of these. And then here's one related to EDC that has been made not active. Some others that I don't understand, but I'll scroll through for the benefit of folks that either know German or are happy to do some translation. Again, I was mostly content that I was getting the manufacturer specified defaults associated with the revised vehicle order. VDM, made not active. This is basically probably amongst the most important key value pairs that we care about. A lot of stuff I don't understand. EDC not active, that's pretty much expected. Not sure about some of these vert options, what those enumeration differences mean. I think you could, if you cared enough, look that up and like NCS Demi. But again, I'm just content to have appropriate defaults. Alright, so that's the superset of all changes, and we're back to the top. So those are the changes that we basically applied. Again, not totally satisfied that we still do have the EGS error, but basically pre and post adaptive drive control option basically didn't change any of the key value pairs, and there's not very many for the EGS module. So again, I suspect it's just that the sport button is baked into it and isn't really a codable option, so this thing's just not going to be entirely happy unless it can talk to a VDM module. So in terms of compromise, this is one that I'm kind of willing to live with, that the EGS module will have the small scope error that we detailed before, that only to my eye shows up in ISTA and certainly not on the dash or anywhere else outside of diagnostic software that can read these BMW specific modules. So I think with that, I'm ready to close the video, and don't subscribe. I don't know if I'll be making too many of these, so probably not worth waiting around, and don't have to like it either. But yeah, let me know how it goes for you, and yeah, especially let me know if you're aware of things that can make the EGSE error go away, or less heavy-handed approach than disabling adaptive drive. Again, I couldn't find a lot of prior art for this particular car, so just wanted to yeah, give an option to folks that don't have any outside of just paying $1,000 per shock for a dynamic unit. So anyways, thanks again. Bye.